Bang! Neeves Knives, I'm Jared, and today we're checking out the new Varga knives, CHOCTAW. Now, Varga does amazing work, amazing designs. Riet typically does their OEM work. Pretty sure it's the same with this one. But I've loved his knives since the first time I got to check them out and get one. And this one is the new version, the CHOCTAW with button lock action that we're going to check out. And I love that it has the hole and thumb stud deployment. I do really like that. Nice deep hollow ground sheep's foot blade instead of his traditional drop point dual ground blade. The satin finish, love that deep satin finish, looks beautiful. Now let's get into all the details. So we have an M390 blade, titanium bolster with carbon fiber scales. I'm sure there's a bunch of different options like Damascene steel and probably micarta and so on and so on and so on. Titanium mill pocket clip and a full titanium backspacer, which is going to help you, like if your knife's in your pocket, things aren't going to be able to easily slip in there and destroy your edge. Now, I'm not sure if he's going to have different pivot collars or not, but that would be a nice little touch. Let's talk about the knife in general. So one, the ergonomics are just amazing. On all his knives I've tried, I haven't found one yet that just didn't feel perfect in the hand. They're just a good thickness. They are a little bit more on the robust side as far as ergos go, which is a good thing because that gives you the most amount of comfort and control. You have the ability to choke up here, which is really nice, and that is a nice comfortable area to choke up on. The thin hollow ground blade does have somewhat of a thick blade stock, so it's going to be, you know, a little, I would say the spine's going to be a little bit on the tougher side, but the edge is very thin and it's going to slice extremely well. And this blade shape mixed with these ergos just work because you don't have to go all the way up in the air to get to the tip. You can keep your elbow nice and low so you can drive a lot of power down into that tip for utility cuts. This does have pretty much a straight edge, but it does have a tiny hint of belly. So technically you could cut down on a flat surface still if you needed to, but it's very subtle. Now, the edge being almost straight makes it to where you can cut all the way out to the tip without fear of slipping out of the cut. But yeah, the ergos and the blade complement each other perfectly. Next, the reverse flick for the hole deployment. It lands in a great spot. I can technically get it with my thumb too, pretty easily without hanging too low with my thumb. A little low, but not much. But the reverse flick, it just lands perfectly. And if you are lefty, this is going to work great for you. Now, I don't see a reversible clip. Not sure if he's doing that in the final versions because these are pre-order. And they are, I think, it's like $150 down, and then 3 weeks before the drop, which will be sometime in the winter or spring, I believe, of 2025, you will have to pay the rest. But this is all refundable, so if you back out, that's fine. Now, which usually they don't have that. Now, the thumb studs are equally as good. Like, they are good. I love these thumb studs. They're the type of thumb studs I think work best on a pocket knife. They're placed very nicely away from the scale. The scale is nicely chamfered, so you can easily just slide your finger right up that handle, and you're gonna hit that thumb stud perfectly without even trying. Now, you can also just put your thumb right on it and, you know, slap that sucker out, but the reverse flick lands in a good spot as well. Now, the detent, in my opinion, for a button lock, it's in the okay area. It's in the decent area, but it's definitely not strong, and I would definitely prefer it to be slightly stronger. And I've talked to him about this. I'm gonna hopefully, I don't know if I'm gonna, but you know, I'm talking with him, and hopefully he'll be able to, in the end, be able to get the detent, or what acts as the detent, this plunge area, to be a nice strong detent. And you know, I've given him a couple ideas and things to look at that hopefully they're able to execute. Now, the lockup on this is great, so I don't want to make it seem like this is a bad button lock. I mean, my goodness, rock solid up and down, rock solid side to side, no failure. I do have a tiny hint of stick, which I love to see. It's very subtle, like you can hear it more than you feel it, but that tells me that the lock is engaged, which I love. I don't mind a little tiny hint of stick, especially if it's more of just like a rub where you can just feel it engage and you're just pushing it out. Because when it's like super soft, not always, but in many cases, it's only a matter of time before you start getting some up and down. Now, of course, you can always fix that just by taking out the button lock spring that's in that little compartment right there. Take that out, stretch her, and then it'll have a stronger detent. Now, hopefully they're able to tune that, because I mean, it's a very little amount, but this is the thing with button locks. The difference between good and great is very little, because all it takes is that little tiny bit of stronger detent to really make a nice satisfying break. Like I said, this is in the okay category as is. So I feel like it's only up from here, you know, as far as, you know, since the way they executed it already is so good that, you know, it can only get better, right? So anyways, meaning, I guess that's not true. I don't mean like that. I guess if it's so good, it can only get worse. But what I mean is that if, with all things the same, the way it is, if they could just increase the strength just a little bit as far as from the closed position when opening, then it's only up. The clip works great in and out of the pocket. Really like that. The button is not too proud, but you could accidentally disengage it, I guess. I've never accidentally disengaged I've never accidentally disengaged a traditional button lock where the button is placed right there. My hands just don't hit it. Now, if I do a reverse grip, I still don't really hit it. So I don't really have that issue, but I do know some companies countersink them. Now, recently, I got one from ProTech that has a very countersunk one. And the guy who sold it to me because he didn't like that. You know, to each their own, right? I don't mind it, but I also don't mind if it's a little proud. As long as I'm not going to accidentally hit it, then I'm fine. Now, I do think it'd be in his best interest to do a reversible clip because it's a button lock. So it's an ambidextrous lock. You know, being an ambidextrous lock, that would work great. Now, the one thing that countersinking does help is if you're going to reverse flick left-handed, you don't hit the button. Your finger goes over the button. Now, there is ways, like I just take my pointer finger and hold the pivot sometimes and do it like that, or by the pivot. But there is ways to do it still, even if it's popping out a little bit. But the more it pops out, the easier it is to accidentally hit with a left hand, which just makes the detent softer. So, anyways, all in all, oh yeah, one more thing. Sharpen show and plunge grind. Let's talk about that, and then the stop pin. So plunge grind is decent. So it starts here and it ends about right there. So you do have a little bit of life to sharpen off, which is quite a few sharpenings, to be honest. Now, especially with this thin of an edge, the thicker it is, you know, then the less life it is, because if you're going to lower back your edge angle, your bevel's going to be bigger, which takes up more steel, right? But being thin like this, even at a low angle, it shouldn't be too much bigger. I mean, obviously it's going to be bigger than this edge bevel for sure. Because these are typically high edge angles, you know, 22, 25, even in many cases 27 degrees per side. But this one, the stop pin hits back there, but it's way away. So I typically don't like them to be placed right there. However, this one's fine because if you look, it is in the thickest portion, which if you're going to put a stop pin back there, that's where you put it. So you have plenty of life to sharpen off. You'll never sharpen that out, ever will you ever sharpen that out. So you'll never have an issue with that. I would recommend him, though, to see if they can't take the plunge grind that starts here and rapidly drop it down to the grind thickness so that it's not a slow taper, like how this one slowly tapers to here. Make it taper rapidly to like right there so that it's just a whop, right down to the grind. That makes it to where you'll have even more life to sharpen off before you ever hit the plunge grind. And it also just keeps it out of the way. Even if you're not going to sharpen it enough to take up that steel, it keeps the steel, the thicker portion of your plunge grind, out of the way so that you don't accidentally hit it when sharpening. But as is just fine. It just, you know, could be better, just like a lot of things, you know. The texture and everything, it's really soft. That's one thing I've always appreciated about his knives. They are softened in all the right areas and sharp in all the areas you want it sharp. Like I said, the clip works great. Titanium mill pocket clip, T8 hardware all the way around. Love to see that, even on the scales. So yeah, there you guys go. I mean, oh yeah, ceramic caged bearings in the pivot. Make it very, very smooth, so no problem on the false shut action. I think this thing's got a lot going for it. I'll be honest, I really like it. I think it's attractive. I think it's really, really well done. I think with just a couple little tiny details, this thing would be like the star of the show. You know what I mean? So there you guys go. Work hard, stay tough. Till next time, peace.